Okay, if you want to play a sorcerer, then there are three options, and we're going to work our way through them over the next couple of videos. And this is the Draconic Sorcerer Pure Guide, levels 1 to 12, with a combat tutorial and some items sprinkled in. So of course, let's jump straight in with Sorcerer. Now, at level 1, we get to pick our cantrips, and we're going to go for the following. My choices for this level would be Firebolt, Shocking Grasp, Ray of Frost, and Poison Spray. Nice mixture of ranged and melee damage, as well as a range of different types of damage. For your first level spells, we're going to take Shield. Nice little reactionary spell that allows you to throw a shield up so enemies can't hit you. You take no damage from magic missile, and it increases your armor class by 5. Really nice spell. And magic missile because, honestly, one of the best spells all the way from level 1 to 12. It's phenomenal. And we're going to start with Draconic Bloodline. So, Draconic Resilience hit points. Your hit points maximum increases by 1 for each sorcerer level. Really good for buffing up our health. Draconic Resilience. Dragonite scales that cover parts of your skin. When you aren't wearing armor, your base armor class is 13. This is basically mage armor without needing to be casted. Really good. We get Tasha's Hideous Laughter as an innate spell. Really nice way of just leaving a creature prone on the floor and easy to attack. And we get our Draconic Ancestry. So, at level 6, spells that deal acid damage are more powerful, and you can become resistant to acid damage. Now this changes depending on the colour you choose, which you see here. So what I would do is I would pick whichever one you really want to focus on. Now there are loads of options. You've got acid, fire, lightning, cold, poison. Pick whatever you feel like. We, for the sake of this build, are going to choose fire. But bear in mind, if you pick white and you want to do cold damage, you want to focus more on cold spells. And vice versa, if you choose acid, focus more on acidy spells, that type of thing. Pick any sort of scales you like. I'm going to go with these ones. And then for our ability points, we're going to have 8 strength, 14 dexterity, 16 constitution, 10 intelligence, 10 wisdom, and 16 charisma, as charisma is the sorcerer's spellcasting modifier. For your proficiencies, take whatever you feel like, which brings us very nicely to Sorcerer level 2. This is where we unlock our sorcery points. And these essentially allow you to do extra perks with your spells. Whereas a wizard can learn spells from scrolls and stuff like that, a sorcerer has sorcery points where they can essentially add extras on top of their spells, whether it be a quicken spell or a distance spell, a twin spell, something along the lines of that. For a spell here, we're going to take Thunderwave, one of my favourite spells in the game. And for our spells here, we're going to take the Meta Magic for Distance spell. So this increases the range of spells by 50%, meaning we can stay as far away from being in the combat as possible. And a twin spell. So spend a sorcery point, and this basically allows you to target an additional creature with your spells. So for example, if you were using a Firebolt, you could target 2 people instead of 1 by spending 1 sorcery point. Okay, Sorcerer level 3, we have access to our level 2 spells now. And again, we're going to focus mainly on whatever our innate spell thing is. So for example, we went fire. If it's poison, go for poison, and vice versa. Now luckily, at this level, we do have Scorching Ray. We also have Burning Hands. So we're going to take Scorching Ray. But if you have things like cold or acid or lightning, you'll see there aren't any of these spells available. So my suggestion would be to take Mirror Image, Misty Step, or Hold Person. And for a Meta Magic, we're going to take Quickened Spell. Spells that cost an action cost a bonus action instead. But this does cost 3 sorcery points, so really pick and choose your moments. Okay, Sorcerer level 4, we have access to our first feat. We have 1 more cantrip, so we're going to take Bone Chill, as this allows you to stop an enemy from healing, and gives a disadvantage on their attack rolls. And for a spell, we're going to take Hold Person, because I love Hold Person. Anyone held, it can't move, can't do anything, and any melee hits on them are automatic critical hits. This really can be a fight ender. Now for your ability score improvement, we're going to take our Charisma up to 18. And that brings us to Sorcerer level 5. And you'll see we have a few more options now. If you were going to be your Lightning Ancestry, take Lightning Bolt. If you're going with the cold damage, go with Sleet Storm. Obviously, being fire, we're going to go with Fireball. And that brings us to Sorcerer level 6, where we get a power buff. So, Elemental Affinity Damage. When you cast a spell that deals damage with a type associated with your Draconic Ancestry, you add your Charisma modifier to the damage. This helps buff up our damage, so currently we'd be getting a +4. We also get Resistance. So when you cast a spell that deals damage of your type associated with your Draconic Ancestry, you can spend 1 sorcery point to gain resistance to that damage type. Now, depending on how you're playing this, you might not need to. It can come in handy, but you might not bother to use it. And at this point, I would take another utility spell. So, for example, Counterspell. Now, this will burn through your spell slots, bear that in mind. But it is a really good spell. Be careful how you use it. You probably aren't going to want to use it on everything. Like cantrips, I wouldn't bother using it on. But any big damage dealers like a Fireball, any haste, anything like that, I would Counterspell to get rid of. Okay, Sorcerer level 7, we have access to 3rd level spells now. And Wall of Fire is pretty good, but I do think there are other options you could use here. So, we are going to take Mirror Image. Now, obviously, if you are going with your lightning and stuff, not really any options here either. If you're going for your cold damage, Ice Storm, an amazing spell. If you're going with fire, as much as I think Wall of Fire is really good, I don't think it's worth the concentration hold up. I think you're better off concentrating on a haste and dropping a Fireball or Scorching Rays, or concentrating on a hold person and dropping some Scorching Rays and Fireballs, stuff like that. So I'm going to take Mirror Image. Okay, Sorcerer level 8, this gives us access to another spell, and at this point, we're going to take Mirror Image, Misty Step. And for our ASI, we're going to finish off our actual ASI build-up with a Charisma at 20. Okay, Sorcerer level 9, we have our 4th level spell slots now. And as you can see, there are lots of options. So again, if you're going with the cold damage, Cone of Cold. If you're going with poison, you have Cloud Kill. For fire, there's not really anything here for us, so we are going to take Haste. Okay, Sorcerer level 10, we have more cantrips, more spells, and another passive. So let's start with our cantrip, and honestly, at this point, you can kind of take anything. We'll just take Light. For a spell, we're going to take Banish Murn. So temporary banish your target to another plane of existence. And we're going to do Meta Magic Careful spell, so we can drop fireballs and our allies should automatically save against them. Okay, Sorcerer level 11, we have access to Fly, a really nice way of getting around the battlefield if you need to. It also saves using a spell slot for Misty Step. Very worst case, it means you get to some higher ground. Now again, if you're going with the Lightning Ancestry, Chain Lightning is the way forward. For us, we're going to take Disintegrate. Shoot a thin green ray from your finger. If the 50 to 100 force damage reduces the target to 0 hit points, it disintegrates into a crumbly ash. Really, really good. And if you pair this with a twin spell, you can target 2 people. And our final level, Sorcerer level 12, we have access to another feat and 1 more spell. Now I would suggest not taking another 6th level spell because you only have 1 level 6 spell slot. You can restore them with your sorcery points, but I don't really think it's worth it. So come down here and pick something that you think is going to help you out more beneficially. For example, I will take False Life. Okay, when it comes to your feat, there are 2 options in my opinion. Alert, so you gain the +5 to initiative, or as I'm going to take, Elemental Adapt. And we're going to pick the element that we want our enemies to basically not be resistant to. So spells you cast and attacks make ignore resistance to fire damage. In addition, when you deal fire damage with a spell, you cannot roll a 1. I think this is a good way of really dialing down on your ancestry and then making sure that the enemies are not resistant to those damage types. Again, you could take Alert if you wanted to. You could take something like Durable. Please note that sorcerers innately are proficient with Constitution saving throws, which means proficient with concentration saving throws to hold your concentration on spells. So we don't need to worry about taking something like Resilient Constitution or Warcaster. So Elemental Adapt, in my opinion, is the way forward. Okay, so that was our level by level guide. Let's go over our items. First up, we're going to take Birthright. Act 3 hats you can get from the Sorcerer's Sundries. Gives you a +2 to Charisma up to 22, so this will buff you past the normal ASI ability check. We're going to take the Cloak of Displacement. At the beginning of the wearer's turn, the cloak activates, granting enemies disadvantage on attack rolls that target the wearer. This effect lasts until the wearer takes damage. Really nice way of essentially holding onto your concentration spells even better than you could before. For boots, I actually quite like the Space Hunt boots. It gives you access to Dimension Door, a really nice way of having another option to get around the battlefield, as well as taking someone else with you. For robes, Robes of the Weave. So, gain a +1 bonus to spell save DC and spell attack rolls. Whenever we succeed a saving throw against a spell, we regain 1 to 6 hit points and a +2 to armor class. This helps buff our entire initiative up to our armor class up to 17. Now, alternatively, if you don't want to use those, you could also go with the Shelter of Aklaf. This will give you Mirror Image, saving you a spell slot option, so you could take something else, but I think it's probably just better off taking Mirror Image. Now for gloves, the Gemini gloves. Cantrips that cost an action, cost a bonus action instead, and this can be used once per short rest. Now again, if you don't want to use this, you could take the Brace of Defense to help buff up your AC, but I do quite like the Quick Spell gloves. Now for rings, I really like the Shifting Corpus ring. Invisibility and Blur can help get a sorcerer out of a pickle. And then for your other ring, you want to take something that will buff your damage with your affinity type. So for example, just as shown off, Snowburst ring, if we were going to do cold damage, this would help with our cold damage. So try and find a ring that will affect that. For an amulet, we are going to take the Spellcrux amulet, Spell Slot Restoration, really helpful, especially if you want to restore a level 6 spell slot, for example. And then for a staff, we're going to take Marker Share, the best staff in the game in my opinion, unless you're a Necromancer. +1 bonus to spell save, DC and attack rolls. Arcane Battery, which means we get free spell slot essentially, and we get Kurska's Favour. So with all that being said, let's go find some combat and we'll test this out. Okay, we're in the fight, and as you can see, we avoided one attack and then only got hit for 7 for the next one. Okay, as you can see, we are displaced. Now it's time for us to start dropping some nukes. So first up, we're going to start with our Careful spell. Now this means we can drop our Fireball. So let's do a level 5 to show it all buffed up. And we're going to throw this just here. We will not spend our sorcery point to get the resistance because we don't need it. And there you go, unfortunately they did take some damage, but not too much. And you can see they took almost half their damage in health. What this also means is we could come back in here. We could, for example, do a Quicken spell. And now we can do one of these. So let's do a Scorching Ray, and we'll buff this up to level 4. And we can just start targeting some people with some projectiles. So let's do 2 on them, and we'll shoot 2 at the lovely one down here. And there you go, we've done a huge amount of damage this round to 3 different enemies in different areas.
What now?
Okay, and again we're going to show off some of our sorcery points, so let's do a twin spell. And we're going to do a twin spell Disintegrate. 1 on them. Can't quite reach them, that's a shame. I wonder if we just move slightly. Let's come here. And then twin spell. We'll get that going. Disintegrate. So 1 onto the Barbarian, and 1 onto the Rogue up here. And as you see, we did 72 damage to that one. Unfortunately, that one did save because Rogues are just insane, but that is the type of things you can do. What we can also do, if we choose to, is turn on our Arcane Battery, or not Arcane Battery, so where is it? Our Quick Spell Fingers to get our cantrip, and we'll just show off a very normal Firebolt. See how much damage this does. And there you go, huge 21 damage with a cantrip. And because we used our level 6 spell slot, we can come in here with a spell slot restoration, and we can recoup that to get more disintegrators. And here we go, we have access to shields, so let's do shield. Big old miss. Okay, another thing we can do is we can do a twin spell, and we can do something fun, such as a banishment. So we could banish, let's say, them, and can't quite reach them. Oh well, there you go, but you can show you could also start twinning people like that. What we will do, we'll turn off twin spell, and as you see we still have a range of options we can do. We've still got high level spells, some low level spells, mirror image, stuff like that. So let's buff ourselves up. We're going to do a mirror image. Helps increase our AC. This will help with things such as Constitution saving throws, protecting ourselves from damage, saving our concentration, all sorts of fun stuff like that. And then at that moment would be the perfect time to use something like a Quick Spell Gloves to then do a cantrip bonus action, that sort of thing. And again, we can just do some simple, easy builds, or sorry, spells, such as Scorching Ray, just to blast people, just like that, easy damage. And then we can come in here and we could Misty Step out of danger, try and come as far as we can, say like here. And there you go, nice way of just moving around the battlefield, and then if we needed to, we could fly down here, all sorts of fun stuff. But that is our Sorcerer build. Obviously, don't put yourself in danger of getting thrown off a building with a roaring arrow, but a nice way of dealing out loads of damage, holding concentration spells, protecting yourself and allies. And what you can do is you can swap your spell slots and your sorcery points. So for example, you can use your spell slots to create sorcery points, use your sorcery points to create spell slots. So as long as you plan it out properly, and it takes a bit of practice and getting used to, you can continuously just buff yourself around, make sure you've got all the essentials you need before you go on a long rest. So I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, please drop this a like, it helps me amazingly. If you're new and not subscribed, you'd like to, that would also be amazing, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.